Can you see me? I can see you. I wanted to do something quite weird for Anonymous Newfoundland, but it's something that's truthful, and the world needs to hear this, especially Canadians who are Christian. Um, Being a Christian myself, I'm kind of confused uh, who I'm supposed to serve. Am I supposed to serve Jesus, or am I supposed to serve Justin Trudeau? If there is any real Christians, please come and join me, and let's have church, and let's talk about Jesus our Lord, and let's talk some truth, because I think a lot of people are phony Christians, and they have no clue. They probably the only thing they remember in the Bible is the name, because the actions seem to go that way. And so, if there are any real quick Canadian Christians or any Christian, you don't have to be Canadian. But if you live in Canada, please join me on here for a live chat. I think there's lots to talk about, especially what's going on with violation of our constitutional rights, our human rights, our inalienable rights, the Bill of Rights, violation of our natural law, our common law. Um, and so on. Living in Nazi Germany in 2021 doesn't really seem to be my favorite thing, but if you picked up a rule book, you would see that it's exactly almost the same in every sense of the word. They've trained generations of men and women to believe that they can't take care of themselves. They need a master to control their mind and control their bodies and control their speech and uh, control their thought. And it's pretty pathetic, you know. After you get 18, you're supposed to grow up. And once that's done, you're on your own. And if you're a real Christian, you shouldn't ever be living in fear. You should have lots of courage. Uh, Faith that works is dead, as Jesus would say. But I know our dear Lord does not approve of what's going on in this country. He does not approve that Christians stay at home and do nothing. He does not approve that when you are in your tiny churches, all you care about is yourself. Enough's enough. You know, we need Christians that are real, that would give their life for Jesus, and stand up for Canada. Our country is dying, guys. It's dying fast. When they're putting fences around churches and then wrapping big black tarps around those fences, it's like Satan has circled the church. You can't see the church. Armed guards are protecting the church because a health minister who has no authority at all says that you're not allowed to go to church and worship. That's one of our fundamental rights. It's in our Constitution. And I don't understand why that lawmakers can break the rules and not be punished. But we who pay the lawmakers, well, we don't really. Bankers do. We don't have no money. We use fake money, which is debt. Every time we spend money, it creates more debt. If you spend $5, you create $5 of debt. And a lot of people are too stupid to see this because they don't understand. And I learned this from a minister in the States, how things work. And it's kind of funny. I'll start with a little show, I guess. And I hope you like this show. Whoever gets to watch this out there in Never Never Land. This was from a minister in the States back in just after the crash. I don't, I can't remember what year it was. But he yelled out some bills, and I'm going to show you the same kind of thing. This is a $20 Canadian dollar bill. Anyone that's educated knows that you can. There's no such thing as paper money. So this would be called a promissory note. It could be called a IOU. And basically, all it is administrative debt, and it should say that on there somewhere. And See, non-negotiable instrument. Non-negotiable instrument. Not yes, non. N-O-N. That means it's not money. Canada owes $1.3 trillion to a private bank. Not to the people of Canada, to a private bank, a separate entity outside of it. And that $1.3 trillion, the collateral to that private bank is that they get to run the motor vehicle registration. They get to run a minister on behalf because the government is contracted out, of course, because the bank needs to get their money. So also all the provincial courts have been administrated out, contracted out. So all the fines, all the stuff that goes on, and even Revenue Canada, it's a contracted out to Revenue Canada, which is a corporation. It's a separate company, got nothing to do with the government, and they collect all this money from us, just fake money. You see, because what they did was when you were born, they gave you a birth certificate, and because you're ignorant, you don't understand because you don't know law. All you know is legal or martial or maritime or canon or whatever, but all you know is Roman. In a Protestant land, it's fucked up. In English land, and all you know is Roman shit. There was only one province in Canada that had anything to do with Rome, and that was Quebec. We've all been conquered. And we live under a Roman civil law where men make rules, enforce them with guns and fear, of course, in all kinds of ways, and make sure that they get their way. They use a phony language called legalese, and you have to pay thousands of dollars so a man will translate that for you when you go to court for a fine that you didn't deserve in the first place. Crime is when there's a victim. Now we have big crimes in Canada, and everybody's too cowardly to arrest these people. I'd like to talk about some of those crimes, like violating the rights of the people that went to church. In Section 24 of our charter, it gives judges the authority to charge these people for any defringement of our rights using any act or stat, which is color of law, because you cannot deprive someone of their rights using color of law. That's against the law. So you could go sue them, of course. Now, if more people sued, they would give up this shit, but unfortunately, most people won't. And you don't need a lawyer for any of that legal stuff. I've said that a million times. If you're going to use a lawyer, you'll lose. So, unless you got an honest one, which is hard because he's joined the bar and his allegiance is to that society. He swore a oath to them, not to you. But let's get back to our rights. Our right to assemble, our right to choose whatever God we want to believe, our right to free speech. All those rights were fought for by our ancestors. The real Canadian, the settlers that came here and settled and built the country. Everybody forgets about them. They're not important no more. Like, it seems like that's happened in the States too. But when you put all the racism and all the ignorance and all the bigotry and all that hatred and all that bullshit aside, the fact of the matter is that these countries were built by people that were white. They were built by a culture of Caucasian men and women, with help, of course, by other people. But the majority were Caucasian men and women, and they came from Europe, and they were Christian. And they had fought for their rights, and they had lived through tyranny and slavery and all this stuff that we live in again today. And it's sad because this was the promised land. This was the free land. This could have been a country that everybody in the world could have looked up to. It used to back in the 80s. But now the truth has been exposed. We're not so good at Canadians, are we? How can you run down Hitler when and then arrest ministers and seize churches? I don't get that. How do you get to do the same shit and you are okay? Because all Hitler did was violate people's rights, their human rights. All the Germans, all the Jews, all the blacks, all the gays, all the tradesmen, no matter who they were, They all were human and they all had human rights. But the government didn't give a fuck. And now we live in Canada, and the government here doesn't give a fuck about your human rights. And the only reason government was created on this land in the first place was to protect those human rights, not to protect a businessman's profit or enslave your grandchildren and your great grandchildren and your great great grandchildren in debt. You feel comfortable because when you were all this freedom that you had been given and all the luxuries of cheap goods when you were growing up, the marvelous life that you were fucking given, that God gave you, and what did you do with it? You took it for granted. You weren't grateful. And now you've left the world where the children of this country and everybody is going to be a lot of torment, a lot of hell, a lot of poverty, a lot of pain, a lot of slavery, a lot of everything that our heroes here in Canada and America fought and died would not be put on this land ever. Worshipping the state or worshipping government is no different than worshipping a king. And it's all fiction. The Bible teaches you that you can only have one master. So who is yours? Is it government or is it Jesus? Because if it's Jesus, you won't vote anymore. Because when you vote, you authorize people to go rob from your neighbors, even though you really don't have that authority in the first place. But because the majority believe that lie, and so it keeps going on, right? And don't think that you're not a criminal, because you are. When you locked me up for smoking pot, someone should have locked you up for your driver's license for robbing me and other people of our rights. And committing fraud by using a birth certificate that was a copy. And I'm sure you read the document you signed when you got your driver's license that told you up front that you needed to provide all original documents for identification purposes. Now, just because that lady looked away and took that copy and didn't call you on your shit does not make you innocent. You committed fraud and you should be in jail. Because the way I see it, we're all equal. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You don't care for Jesus because Jesus would have never done any of these. Jesus never claimed to preach that governments were so beautiful. Jesus wanted you to be free. He wanted you to love your neighbor. And he told you that loving your neighbor sometimes might be hard, but it was worth more than you loving your own family. Loving the stranger, forgiving someone, doing that extra and no matter how, sometimes even so hard as it can be to help someone else. To be humble, to be a good human being, and less of a horrible person when you are in your person. You know, the thing that you spend most of your life at from when you wake up in the morning, acting as something you're not. It's time for Christians here and all around the world to wake up because there won't be any Christians here soon. Your churches will be all closed down. And I don't agree with that. And I hope you don't either. Anonymous does not support any church or government or any of those things, but we do support human rights. So, on behalf of Anonymous Newfoundland, and from my personal view, praise Jesus, and I hope He helps us because we're going down a road that are not just us, but our children, our grandchildren, our great grandchildren. It's a nightmare what's coming for them. And it's all just because we're too cowards to stop buying things. We're too coward to walk out. We're too busy trying to make money. That creates more debt. Learn how to write a promise agreement. You're the money, not them. You're the power, not them. And it's time to wake up. Namaste. April the 4th, or 11th, sorry, 2021.